Welcome back to For Perspective. This week, I'm going to be going over the 3 best books that I read in 2024. From creativity to storytelling, and of course, some productivity thrown in there. I'm going to start with The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. Now, I started off the year wanting to do book summaries and read a book every month and then write a book summary and post that on my blog online. And I got a jump start on that habit, if you will, in November of 2023. And I did read a book every month, November, December, January, and I made it till about February until I petered out. And maybe not lost interest is probably the wrong way to put it, but other things started coming up, and I definitely put a priority on YouTube and the YouTube channel during that time to keep putting out one video every week. And I pretty much did that throughout the year. So I'm circling back here in 2024 towards the end of the year. It's late December here as I record this, and let's get into it. So I watched Rick Rubin on the Huberman Labs podcast, and I had known about the Creative Act book before that, but hadn't purchased it. And not that I wasn't interested, but it was something that I was thinking I was going to get around to at some point. And then listening to him on the Huberman Labs podcast, I was kind of like, all right, great. I got to buy the book, hit it up on Amazon. A couple days later, it was here. And as I kept going on this creative journey throughout 2024 on YouTube, and wanted to get better about things like titles and thumbnails, even my on-camera presence, I thought this book was immensely helpful. In my summary, I say, logistically, it was highly digestible. So that's kind of a theme with all 3 of these books. They were all highly digestible. And what I mean by that is I am not good about sitting down and reading, a book. If the chapters are too long, I just lose interest. I don't have a lot of time to sit and read for long periods either. So if I can just kind of plop down for 10 or 15 minutes and I get through a section, maybe it even takes me less than that, I feel far more accomplished and like I'm making progress in the book. And that keeps me interested all the way through the finish. So this book does have a fair amount of sections or chapters. I forget what he really even calls them, but some of them are related, some of them are not. It was really easy to just sit down and spend 5 minutes, read a section, get through it. I had to read this book with my notebook, cell phone. And I was taking pictures of the different passages and highlighting them on the iPad as I was going through. And there was a ton of them at the end. So usually I do like reading on the Kindle, and then, Readwise kind of does this for me, and I export those things to whatever app I'm using. But I started off, the book starts off and says, everyone is a creator. And I was kind of sitting there thinking to myself, is that true? I'm an engineer by trade, but I don't make money from, YouTube or social media at the time. I guess I do make a little bit now being monetized on YouTube, but, I go to work and I solve complex problems on the engineering side, as well as people problems as a project manager. But oftentimes I don't feel overly creative in that job. And that's probably just a mindset more than anything, because we definitely employ creative problem solving in order to get past all the technical issues, think about risks, risk reduction, backup paths, ways you can keep going, keep pushing the ball forward, even if things aren't going your way. And so I've been using YouTube and podcasts and other things as a creative outlet. Help me, use some of the camera equipment, video equipment that I enjoy using. while thinking about different ways that I can use my experience and my expertise and apply it to field of technology and other things that I enjoy doing. So I'm going to go through a couple highlights in this book that I thought were really important. And I'll read this one word for word. If you have an idea you're excited about and you don't bring it to life, it's not uncommon for the idea to find its voice through another maker. This isn't because the other artist stole your idea, but because the idea's time has come. That resonated with me because oftentimes I browse YouTube, and as a consumer, I had this mindset about, when I would buy a product, well, I could make a video about that. And then I'd go on YouTube, and sure enough, I'd find a video pretty much with the same thought that I had, either how to make the video or the thoughts that they had on the video. But then as I started to watch more and more YouTube, I started to see, there's obviously more people than ever posting on YouTube. I do see a pretty big disconnect now between like when I buy a device versus watching all the videos. There are often some disconnects. My experience is different than everybody else's. So, I just said, whatever. I'll start the channel and start making the videos, share my experiences, and see what comes of it. I think that all boils down to, really, if you don't do it, somebody else will. If you don't do it, somebody else will. So when the ideas strike and I'm excited about something, I follow through and I execute and I make a video now. The next sort of theme that stuck with me here, this quote says, "The person who makes something today isn't the same person who returns to the work tomorrow." And I took this personally as, time passes and people change. So people's interests change, people's hobbies change, relationships come and go, life happens. So when you do something or somebody else does something that you think is great, they put it out into the world, it might change them. And they might not be the same person when if you would meet them in the future, they might not be the same person that they were when they made that piece that moved you. It's actually highly likely that they're a different person. Next up was a big one for me starting YouTube. The comment sections in social media can be wild and filled with people that, I don't know why they don't just close the window if you don't like something. Right, move on from it. But this quote is talking about if the results aren't well received, you're a failure if the creation isn't successful. He says it's helpful to turn those voices down so you can hear the chimes of the cosmic clock ring, reminding you it's time, your time to participate. And I wrote down, turn down the outside voices. So for me, that's, if I'm excited about an idea and I make a video that I am proud of, that's good enough for me. There's going to be people who don't like it. And it still blows my mind why, you're not going to like a video and you freaking click on the video and watch the whole thing just to leave a negative comment or give a thumbs down. Like, whatever. People have things going on in their own life that they need to work on. And starting YouTube is something that took me a long time, over a decade, to get over the fear and get started. I remember getting the Moto 360 smartwatch. And at the time, I was watching a lot of Austin Evans and, of course, MKBHD. And I sent a tweet and I said in the tweet, man, I wish I could do tech reviews like Marquez and Austin. And I'm pretty sure Austin replied and he said, yeah, you could just, use your smartphone and make a video. And even back then, I was like, these guys were using professional cameras or DSLRs at the time, thousands of dollars worth of equipment to make their videos. And I'm like, I can't just turn on my cell phone and make a video. It turns out it would have been as easy as that. I just needed to, you just have to practice. You just have to practice. So the quote here from the book was, ultimately, your desire to create must be greater than your fear of it. So eventually I just kind of got tired of it. And I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to make the videos and share my opinions online. Okay, I'm almost going to wrap this one up. One of the last things, I mean, this book is packed full of insights, and I need to go back and reread it. I did get this on Kindle, so I am going to go back and reread and re-highlight and see how much of the highlights overlap from the last time. But there was one quote in here that says, volume does not equal value. And at the time, this resonated with me because, social media is still to this day littered with people, trying to sell you get rich quick schemes. And, this is how I built my $1 million business overnight sort of thing. They're effectively shouting, look at me, I'm so successful. And they can make you think that you need to be doing something that doesn't align with what you want to do. So I was thinking about this earlier today, how, volume and value and quality are kind of one of those overlapping Venn diagrams. And it might even be one of the, you want all three. You want volume, you want value, and you want quality, but you got to pick two, especially if you're a solo creator. So I've tried to pick value and quality. You might argue consistency is in there as well. So trying to figure out how many, the one video a week thing. How do I make that the best video that I can possibly make? How do I give value to the people who are viewing it? But also, how do I give value to myself in this video? Part of this is challenging myself to do something new, learn new things about cameras and tech, stay sharp in the head. So I've definitely at times overdone the volume and tried to make too many shorts, too many longs, post on Instagram, be everywhere all at once. And at the end of the day, I am just one guy, so I can't be everywhere all at once. I've kind of simplified this down to YouTube and Threads. I really like posting on Threads. I do kind of use X on the side still, or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, just to, post my videos out there. Not a lot of people, my posts don't get a lot of traction over there. So the community on Threads is a nice place anyways. So wrapping this up with the statement I made at the beginning of this book is that we are all creators. And I do believe that, especially after reading this book and the year that I've had. And I went over the things that my day job requires me to do to be creative, but so does this sort of hobby, side hustle. I don't know what you want to call YouTube and podcast now, but whatever you call it, this also challenges me to be more creative, but is inherently creative in its own right because I am making something out of nothing. Okay, next up on the list, a Hartford native, Matthew Dix, his book Storyworthy. So I see some of these people on YouTube who always craft, I call them stories, but whatever you want to call them. Like a Peter McKinnon video is a great example. I watch a Peter McKinnon video and I'm just so drawn in, even if it's only a few minutes at a time. You lose track of time and it's the only thing, it's like you have blinders on. It's the only thing you can see or think about. And he does that through both the shots that he chooses to put in the video, the music selection and sound effects are always on point. And then the dialogue, he's not overly talkative. And some of the videos, really tug on those heartstrings. And Casey Neistat is another one, an obvious choice of kind of a master storyteller. So I thought to myself, well, how hard is this really? Because I kind of want to do that on YouTube, right? I try to weave my life experience into why I bought a certain piece of tech or how it helps me be more productive or be more efficient. And I want to make videos that kind of pull people into another dimension. I know I'm not nearly there yet. So look, that's a long-term goal. And the steps that I'm taking on a daily and weekly basis, hopefully will get me there at some point. Again, this was another book that was broken down in shorter sections. He does a really cool thing. So Matthew's a award-winning storyteller and made the book exciting to pick up and read. So every few chapters, he will put in one of his award-winning stories. So you kind of get this break. He's teaching you what the sections of a story are, how to structure a story, ways that things in ways that he's used to craft successful stories throughout his career. And then you get to see it in action. So it's like, here's the thesis, or here's the theory, and here it is in action. That resonated with me and broke up the book in a way that made it very enjoyable. I really couldn't wait to finish this book, which is rare for me. I really, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, I have trouble sitting down for long periods of time, but when something grabs me like this, I will stick with it to the end, even if it means, every day I'm sitting down to read. So he's got some really great stories throughout his life. Some amazing things have happened to him. But he teaches you that, you don't have to be in, crazy car crashes, almost die. You don't have to have these wild things happen in your life in order to have good stories. And that really the heart of a good story is just 5 minutes of a day. These everyday moments, small things that regular people can relate to, because not everybody can relate to the things that he's had happen in his life. So he comes up with this thing called homework for life, which is at the end of every day, you write down some snippet about the day that you can go back on and develop a story around later. So his quote says, "I decided that at the end of every day, I'd reflect upon my day and ask myself one simple question. If I had to tell a story from today, a 5-minute story on stage about something that took place over the course of this day, what would it be? As benign and boring and inconsequential as it might seem, what was the most story-worthy moment of my day?" So the goal here is just to find a transformation that can later be turned into a story, a bite-sized memory. I have a few of these in front of me here from last January. Screw today. Icy driveway, car stuck, hand hurts, head hurts. It's not even a full sentence, but I instantly know what was going on that day. Obviously, there was poor weather. The car that was stuck was my wife's car because I have all-wheel drive, and I must have had my snow tires on already. I don't think she did. Hand hurting. I was dealing with carpal tunnel at the time, going through physical therapy, and I was having numbness and tingling through my forefinger and thumb on my left hand. And head hurts. Just add to all the other stuff that's going on. I had a headache on top of that. So the thing I struggled with is I never really went back and developed stories off of these. So I probably have, 80 to 100 different homework for lives in my day one app that I would love to go back and develop stories off of and really hone the craft. But This was kind of another goal that fell off throughout the year, so we'll work at it again next year. And the last one I'll share with you, I say, single moment of happiness. Sitting on the couch with Mia, my dog, and Ollie, our cat, after reading Storyworthy. Appreciative. That's what I wrote down. And I do remember that moment. I just kind of sat there smiling, and I had both animals snuggling with me on the couch. I was reading a really good book. It was kind of one of those days where you sit back and you just say, life is good. How did I get so lucky? So, telling stories isn't just something that you need if you're going to create a YouTube channel or do a podcast, but in everyday life and in business too, you got to be able to tell a story. And the famous Steve Jobs quote says, "The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda for an entire generation that is to come." So if you're in a meeting at work and you have a PowerPoint and you know how to inject a story into this, usually mundane, flipping through the slides sort of meeting presentation, wouldn't that be a lot more compelling? If you knew how to sell the transformation that was going to happen throughout whatever story you were telling, that will help you in business just as much as it will anywhere else in life. And this book is chock full of examples and things that you can do and how to think about when you're telling a story, kind of reading the audience sort of thing. Different ways that you could test stories at a dinner party. And Matthew has a couple books after this that I need to go check out now, but highly recommend if you're into both the technical aspects of how to tell a story and giving yourself some assignments to learn how to become a better storyteller, then this book comes highly recommended to me. And I should mention, I'm just doing this in chronological order. I'm not going to give a number 1, 2, and 3 book rating here this year. And so then I picked up in February, the Para Method, P-A-R-A, Para Method by Tiago Forte. This was the successor to his book, Building a Second Brain, where he goes into the different systems basically for digital productivity. And the second brain is something that I have been using for, almost probably 2 years now. And I've jumped around. The app doesn't really matter, but I've used Obsidian and Apple Notes for my second brain. So the Para Method promises 5 things at the start of this book. And Para is how Tiago chooses to set up his folder structure in all things. So projects, areas, resources, and archives are the 4 folders that he sets up. 5? 4? Whatever. 4. Promise 1, you will stop wasting time looking for information. You will know exactly where stuff is. Good. I like that. I like to know where things are. 2, you will gain greater focus on what matters most. You will have greater clarity about what's important so you can intentionally move your life into alignment with your interests and goals. Good. Promise 3, you will make things happen. You will consistently finish what you start, beating procrastination and tapping into your past learning to make progress fast. Love it. Promise 4, your creativity and productivity will soar. You'll have access to a playground of your own ideas to finally do the creative work that's been locked up inside of you. I find that to be true, and I use my second brain to come up with ideas and execute on them. And promise 5 in today's day and age is also important, probably last but not least. You will beat information overload and FOMO. The fear of missing out on a key piece of information will disappear and be replaced with the confidence that you have everything you need to get started. And I think all of those promises get delivered on very well in both this book and the whole second brain theory system. Right now, I treat my YouTube channel still more like an area than it is a project. The videos themselves are projects, but the area of, YouTube channel doesn't really have a start and end date unless I decided to quit. But the videos do have a start and end date because I come up with the idea, I make it, I post it, then it's done. I still don't really structure my folders like that just because of how Apple Notes is set up. So I have a YouTube folder in my area. Pretty much all the notes live there, and I've now implemented a tagging system such that when I post it and archive it to the archive folder, I know it was a YouTube note. And I picked out a couple quotes for Tiago's book as well. The first being, creativity can't really be sustained without a sense of motivation. You can't keep doing your best thinking and contributing your best ideas if you're burned out and demoralized. And there's definitely been times throughout the year where I just don't feel like doing it. And sometimes I push through that and make a video anyways, and you get, it's like going to the gym when you don't feel like it. You get that sort of uplifting, like, great, I was happy that I did that sort of feeling. And other times, I listen to it and just like, I don't feel like doing it. I'm not going to do it. And you take a little break. It's kind of like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Nothing, nothing happens, right? It's not that serious. Making videos about tech and productivity on the internet. So I've definitely learned to listen to myself and take the time when I need it. The next thing that generally sort of helped me from this book is that areas are private, whereas resources are shareable. So in the beginning, when I first set up the para method, I think myself and probably many others struggled with, how do you figure out what a project is? What goes in areas versus resources? And I think areas versus resources is more complicated, obviously, than the project having a start and end and kind of being a set thing. So when you think about it this way, it makes a lot of sense. Areas are private, things that you want to keep to yourself. So, while I share the YouTube video that comes out of the ideas at the end, I don't share those notes that are in there. Those are kind of for me, right? That's what I write, how I'm thinking about it, the different shots that I want to take for the videos. Whereas resources are shareable. I put things in there. Let's say I do have a document for my camera settings. So what the base ISO is for the Sony a7 IV and the Sony ZV-E1 in the different sections. That way, if somebody asked me, hey, do you know what the base ISO is? It's like, yeah, great. Here's a chart. I can share that with you. That helped tremendously to break down kind of the differences between those two folders. And here's another good one. Using Para is not just about creating a bunch of folders to put things in. I'm not going to read the rest of the quote because I had this problem before, kind of trying to organize my digital life, where I would create myself into this folder pit of doom where I thought I was doing good, organizing my files, but really I was just making it more difficult for me to find stuff. So I'll follow Tiago's rule. He has a rule where he never creates a blank folder. So if you're creating a folder and then you don't have anything to put in it at that moment, you don't need the folder. I've followed that and picked that up. So I don't just click in and think, oh yeah, it'll be in here. And then I open the folder and nothing's in there. And then the next thing I picked up was it's okay to start over. So as life goes on, different phases of life happen. Maybe you buy a house, maybe you get married, maybe you have a kid, maybe you got a new job. reevaluating your productivity system or your second brain at that point, or what tool you are using, might make a lot of sense. I've kind of gone through this a few times, mainly with my task manager. I've gone from Todoist to things to reminders, back to Todoist, back to things, now back to reminders. As my life kind of evolved and I needed different things. So I try now not to switch just for the sake of switching. I do still kind of like trying new tools from time to time, but I finally have found a system that works with Apple Reminders, Apple Notes, and Fantastical for my calendar. So I think I'm sticking with those for now. I say that, in a few months it could be something different, but that's what it is. And if your digital life starts to get overwhelmed at any point, it's okay to just dump all that crap into the archive and start again. And I've had to do that with mainly cloud storage, so like iCloud Drive and OneDrive. When I migrated from OneDrive to iCloud Drive, I didn't want to go put everything in its spot or whatever. So I actually just dumped my entire OneDrive content into the archive in a OneDrive folder. So it's searchable and easily accessible, but I didn't have to waste time, categorizing things into a new system. And then he's got a couple here. One is which projects you're spending a lot of time on that don't have any goals associated with them. And then in parentheses, he says, these are called hobbies because without a goal in mind, they are likely just for fun. Also asks which projects can you cancel, postpone, reduce in scope, delegate, outsource, or clarify. And these things kind of help me clean up my digital life and productivity system as well. Gets you thinking about stuff in a different light. If I have a project and I haven't touched it in a while, or I don't have a goal for it, or vice versa, if I have a goal and I don't have a project for it, these are things you just might want to think about. You might want to remedy those whenever you do your goal setting, if that's yearly or quarterly or monthly. And just make sure your projects are aligning. If you're taking steps every week or every day to move the needle forward towards a goal, that's great. That's what this is all about. So I find in general that the para method and these productivity systems that I have set up allow me to be more thoughtful about what I'm doing, less reactive, less firefighting, going from one problem to the next. Allows me to be more of a strategic thinker than if I didn't have anything in place and kind of no guidance. So there you go. I think top 3 books of the year, one on creativity, one on storytelling, and one on productivity. That hits the nail right on the head for me. And I didn't read too many books after this. It's towards the end of the year and I've got a couple more left to go, but we'll look forward to 2025. And I think I'll do this again next year. I enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments if you're able to leave one wherever you found me, on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. I appreciate any reviews or feedback you have. Until next time, later.